At times, Shadow of the Colossus can feel like a chore. But the other times, sublime. Unforgettably breathtaking. An awe-inspiring spectacle. Hi, I'm Tim, and welcome to my thoughts. Having missed out on the original 2005 hype train, I finally decided it was time to give this celebrated classic a try. So I fired up the 2018 PS4 remake for the first time. What secrets could be hiding in its colossal shadow? What could a 17-year-old game have to teach this 30-something, tired and jaded old gamer? Well, this is what I found. Akin to the legends of yore, Shadow of the Colossus is an epic tale, set in a fantastical land rife with magic, myths, and giants to match. The plot is intentionally sparse and obfuscated, but this works in the game's favor, crafting an intriguing aura of mystery and moral ambiguity. You control a lost young man named Wander on a quest to resurrect Mono, a young woman whose life was forfeited to ritual sacrifice. Alongside his trusty companion Agro, Wander ventures to the Shrine of Worship, a forbidden temple of legend that houses Dormin, a forgotten god with the alleged power to retrieve souls from the dead. Upon arrival, Dormin's disembodied voice offers Wander a bargain. Destroy the 16 colossi scattered throughout the Forbidden Lands, and Mono's soul will return, but at a dear price. Shadow of the Colossus was directed by Fumito Ueda, a fastidious artist and demanding creative. Hot off the heels of Ico's critical acclaim, Sony signed off on a bigger production and marketing budget for Ueda's second master vision. The game's development cycle was long and arduous, cycling through multiple iterations of conceptual design. It began with developing a prototype trailer. The result was a real-time rendered video running on PS2 hardware, depicting a grand-scale, multiplayer, giant beast-slaying concept. It was named Nico, a combination of Ni, Japanese for two, and Ico. Ueda was adamant about pushing the technological boundaries of the PS2, taking advantage of computationally demanding AI and procedural generation, offering more realistic NPC interactions and character movements. The result was a game far ahead of its time, and yet perhaps still leaves something to be desired in a remake released 13 years later. Not ordinarily praise I'd give to a video game, especially one from 2005, but Shadow of the Colossus delivers some truly stunning cinematography. The camera is programmed to frame each scene with purpose. Paired with spectacularly imaginative landscapes, the game exudes this beautifully rich cinematic feel. Environments are minimal yet majestic. Despite the era's limited technology, the world feels deceptively large. The lands emit a mysterious, ancient quality, adding to the sense of a vast, understated lore lurking behind the scenes, unfolding like legends of old. With no forced collectibles, the player is free to wander, twist and wind one's way through diversely gorgeous environments. Each Colossus is simultaneously a puzzle and work of art. Unique in design, characteristics, and temperament, one must be resourceful, utilizing available surroundings and ingenuity, discovering how best to defeat them. Equally as dazzling is the game's soundtrack, intricately scored with intent in every note. The accompaniment is nothing short of phenomenal. Contemplative, thrilling, forlorn, and everything in between. An epic orchestral symphony peaks in just the right moments, subtly elevating each step of your journey. As mentioned before, I played this game for the first time in 2023. As much fondness as I have for the PS2 era of old, nostalgia-tinted glasses and a fresh coat of paint can only hide so many blemishes. Once the game's initial awe wore thin, its age began to show through the cracks. In this modern age where complex AI, procedurally generated worlds, and fluid character mechanics are the norm, the game's unintuitive controls, uncooperative camera, and often confounding AI sometimes felt stiff and outdated. I found myself confused by the navigation system, aggravated by an unwieldy horse, and flustered by outdated platforming mechanics. Rather than just fighting Colossi, I was fighting against the game itself, and it was fighting back. But I decided to stick with it, often needing to brute force my way through. Slowly over time, I slayed more Colossi and bonded with aggro. And while things got better, there was still this underlying resistance, restricting my ability to fully appreciate the game. Now, if you're a longtime Colossus fan, you're probably screaming internally, or maybe externally. You're playing it wrong. You just don't get it. Probably something along those lines. And the thing is, you're right. I finally realized I was playing it wrong. As I booted up the game for maybe the 4th or 5th time and headed towards another Colossus, I began to discover something. I was traversing the desert, admiring the architecture, gathering more delicious B-roll, and this clarity suddenly dawned on me. In that moment, skulking along desert sands and forgotten ruins, I had an epiphany. I realized what I needed was to stop fighting. I needed to stop rushing around, ticking imaginary boxes in my mind. I needed to cease clinging to how I thought the game should be played, and instead, experience it simply for what it is. What I needed was to let go. Instead of fighting against the controls, against the camera, against aggro, against how I think the battles should go. I just needed to accept things as they were and play the game as it allowed me to. I needed to put down my preconceived notions and expectations of how video games should be, and instead play the game how it was designed. Stop fighting the controls, live in the moment, and simply wander. And when I did this, something magical happened. exploring the game's collection of unique biomes, ragged cliff faces, lush forests, expansive deserts, ancient ruins. Simply taking the time to discover and engage with my surroundings, I found that the game became a meditative experience. I finally understood that Agra's uncooperative nature was my own doing. I was trying to force her to follow my command, control her as I would an inanimate vehicle. But instead, if I guided her like a real horse, she would act like one. With a mind of her own, she navigates narrow paths and gets frightened by dense foliage. She doesn't always appear instantly and doesn't listen to every command, but she is there when you need her the most. When I finally stopped demanding control, I realized that this concept is not only intentional, but pervasive throughout the game's entire design language. The camera is meant to make your experience more cinematic and engaging. The world quietly guides you through every obstacle if you let it. And fighting Colossi is challenging precisely because it's meant to feel like the gargantuan task that it is. I finally understood the one standing in my way of enjoying the game was myself. With newfound perspective, I was finally granted access to the experience that all those die-hard fans gush endlessly over. The entire world opened up to me, and I became subtly yet deeply immersed in its fantastical, archaic beauty. I began to really feel I was traversing these distant, ancient lands, diving into a spectacularly layered world with eyes wide open, losing my sense of self, folding it into these vast, expansive moments. I finally felt at peace with Ueda's vision. This game enabled me to shake off my preconceived notions, to forget modern gaming's obsessive, meaningless compulsion to accomplish things, and to simply lose myself to the Colossus. And I couldn't be more glad that it did. All of that frustration and struggling eventually wore down my hardened old perspective, leading to a truly unforgettable and one-of-a-kind experience. And that is the true power of games like these, games that dare to dream of a vision beyond the ordinary and expected. Even 17 years later, its message and design transcend not only its contemporaries, but also so many who would come after it, solidifying it as a truly unique classic worthy of your time. Thank you, Shadow of the Colossus, for helping me rediscover my love for gaming. I'm Tim, and these are my thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out some of my other videos detailing my most memorable and impactful gaming experiences. Be sure to stop by the Discord for more Colossus and gaming-inspired discussion. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.